The dust settled slowly in the archive chamber, as Hyunwoo carefully brushed away centuries of accumulated debris from the metal box. His hands trembled slightly, not from the cold, recycled air of the facility, but from excitement. In his 3 years working at the Central Archives, he had never found anything like this. The box was small, no larger than his palm, but it was made of a material that his scanner couldn't identify. That alone made it priceless. "Taemin, you need to see this," Hyunwoo called out to his mentor, who was examining pottery fragments on the other side of the excavation site. The old Valorian scholar made his way over, his forelegs moving carefully across the uneven ground. Taemin had been studying dead civilizations for over 60 cycles, and his scaled skin had turned pale gray with age. He peered at the box through his multiple eyes, each one focusing independently on different aspects of the artifact. "Open it carefully," Taemin said, his voice raspy. "This site was sealed for a reason. The species that lived on Terminus 7 vanished overnight, remember? No one knows why." Hyunwoo used his tools to pry open the box. Inside, nestled in some kind of preservation foam, was a crystalline object that pulsed with a faint blue light. The moment he touched it, the crystal activated, projecting holographic symbols into the air. The symbols were unlike anything in the Coalition database. They twisted and turned, forming patterns that seemed almost alive. "By the ancients," Taemin whispered, moving closer. His tail twitched with excitement, something Hyunwoo had never seen before. "These symbols, I've seen fragments of this language before. In the forbidden text." "The human text?" Hyunwoo asked, unable to hide his skepticism. Everyone knew humans were just stories, myths told to children. They were supposedly beings of incredible power who had ruled the stars long ago. But there was no real proof they ever existed. "Mock me, if you will," Taemin said, his voice sharp. "But I have spent my life studying these legends. Every myth has a grain of truth. This crystal might be the proof I've been searching for." Across the galaxy, on a military station orbiting the third planet of the Keswick system, Commander Ji-won studied the reports on her terminal screen with growing concern. She was a krill, a species known for their tactical minds and cool judgment, but even she couldn't explain what was happening at the outer rim. "Another one," her second-in-command Da-Yun said, entering the command center. "That makes 5 scout ships in 10 rotations. All of them disappeared without sending any distress signal." Ji-won pulled up the star map, watching as the computer marked the last known positions of each missing vessel. They formed a pattern, a curved line moving slowly toward Coalition space. Whatever was taking these ships was methodical, organized. "Have you reported this to High Command?" Da-Yun asked. 3 times, Ji-won replied, her mandibles clicking in frustration. "They keep saying it's equipment failure or navigation errors. They refuse to believe something is systematically taking our ships." "What do you believe?" Ji-won stared at the map for a long moment. "I believe we're about to face something we're not prepared for." Back in the archives, Hyunwoo and Taemin worked through the night, trying to decode the crystal's message. The symbols slowly began to make sense, revealing themselves as a form of mathematical language. Numbers were universal, after all. Through careful work, they translated fragments of text that spoke of coordinates, of warnings, of something called the Sleeping Guardians. "Here," Taemin said, his voice excited despite his exhaustion. "This phrase keeps repeating. It translates roughly to 'when the Devourers return.' Does that mean anything to you?" Hyunwoo searched the archive's database but found nothing. There's no record of any species called Devourers in Coalition history. "Because it happened before the Coalition existed," Taemin said. He pulled up an old text on his personal device, one of the forbidden human texts that scholars weren't supposed to keep. "Look here. This ancient document speaks of a great war between humans and something called the Vroth Hive. It describes them as devourers of worlds, machines that consume everything in their path. But those are just stories," Hyunwoo protested, though his conviction was weakening. "Are they?" Taemin gestured at the crystal. "Then explain this. Explain technology we can't identify, language we've never seen, and warnings about threats we've never heard of. What if humans were real? What if they left us messages, warnings we were too arrogant to heed?" The next morning, Hyunwoo presented their findings to the Archive Council. The 7 members, representing different Coalition species, listened politely but with obvious disbelief. When he finished, the head counselor, a being whose name meant Swiftwing in the Old Tongue, clicked his beak dismissively. This is fascinating as an archaeological curiosity, Swiftwing said. But surely you're not suggesting we take action based on myths and legends. The Coalition has real problems to deal with. We cannot waste resources chasing fairy tales. But the coordinates, Hyunwoo argued. We could send a probe to verify. Denied, Swiftwing interrupted. That region of space has been marked as a navigation hazard for thousands of cycles. There's nothing there but sensor distortions and dead rocks. Your crystal is interesting, young scholar, but it's just an artifact. Nothing more. Defeated, Hyunwoo returned to his quarters, but Taemin was waiting for him, his eyes gleaming with determination. They won't listen through official channels, the old scholar said, so we'll work unofficially. I still have contacts, friends who owe me favors. We'll decode the rest of that crystal and we'll find the truth. Meanwhile, Ji-won received a priority message from one of her patrol captains. A civilian freighter had barely escaped from something at the outer rim. The captain, a trader named Jae-hyun, was requesting emergency docking. When the freighter limped into the station, Ji-won saw immediately that something terrible had happened. The ship's hull was scorched and partially melted by weapons that didn't match any Coalition design. Jae-hyun himself was shaking when she met him in the medical bay. It was huge, he said, his 6 arms gesturing wildly. Bigger than a battlecruiser. Dark, angular, like someone had built a ship out of knives and shadows. My sensors couldn't get a clear reading on it. Every time I tried to scan it, my instruments went crazy. Did it attack you? Ji-won asked. No, Jae-hyun said. That's what scared me most. It didn't even seem to notice us. It was headed toward Coalition space, and there were others behind it. Commander, I've been flying these routes for 20 cycles. I've never seen anything like this. Ji-won reviewed the footage from Jae-hyun's ship. The vessel he described was there. Barely visible through sensor distortion, but unmistakably real and unmistakably alien. This wasn't a Coalition design. It wasn't anything in their records. She made her decision quickly. Down, prepare the fleet. I'm taking this evidence to High Command personally. If they won't listen to reports, maybe they'll listen when I show them proof that something is coming. Far away, in the quiet of the archives, Hyunwoo finally cracked another section of the crystal's code. What he read made his blood run cold. The message was clear now, a warning left by someone who had seen this threat before. When the Devourers return from beyond the rim, he read aloud, Wake the sleeping ones. Coordinates follow. They are humanity's final gift. They are the guardians who wait in the dark. Taemin placed a gentle hand on Hyunwoo's shoulder. Now do you believe? Hyunwoo looked at his mentor and slowly nodded. We need to get this information to the military. To Commander Ji-won, if possible. If these Devourers are real, if something is coming, then we need to find these sleeping guardians, Taemin finished. We need to wake the humans. Ji-won stood before the Coalition High Council, her evidence displayed on the massive holographic screen behind her. The 7 council members sat in their elevated seats looking down at her with expressions ranging from concern to irritation. She had spent 3 days traveling to the capital world just to present her case, and she could already tell they didn't want to hear it. Commander Ji-won, the head counselor said, his multiple tentacles waving dismissively. You're asking us to believe that an unknown alien force is invading Coalition space based on 1 damaged freighter and some missing scouts. Ships disappear all the time. Space is dangerous. With respect, Counselor, Ji-won said, keeping her voice steady. 5 military vessels don't just vanish. And this footage shows technology we've never encountered. Something is out there, and it's moving toward our core worlds. Or, another counselor interjected, your scanner malfunctioned and created a false image. The outer rim is full of sensor anomalies. Everyone knows this. Ji-won felt her frustration building but kept it hidden. These politicians had never served in the field, had never seen real danger. They lived in their comfortable offices and made decisions that others would die for. She took a breath and tried again. I'm requesting permission to take an investigation fleet to the last known position of our missing scouts. Let me prove what's happening out there. The counselors spoke among themselves in low voices. Finally, the head counselor turned back to her. Very well. You may take 3 cruisers and support ships. You have 10 rotations to complete your investigation. But Commander, don't come back empty-handed. We're giving you this chance because of your service record. Don't waste it. Ji-won saluted and left the chamber. Daeun was waiting outside, having listened to the entire proceeding through the communication link. 3 cruisers, Daeun said quietly. If there really is a threat out there, that's not going to be enough. I know, Ji-won replied, but it's all we have. While Ji-won prepared her fleet, Hyun-woo was racing against time in the archives. He had finally managed to get a message through to the military commander, attaching all his translated data from the crystal. He didn't know if she would believe him, but he had to try. Taemin had grown weaker in recent days, his advanced age catching up with him. But the old scholar refused to rest. He worked alongside Hyun-woo, cross-referencing the crystal's data with fragments from the human texts. The coordinates, Taemin said, pointing at the holographic display. They match the location of the navigation hazard, the place the council called dead rocks and sensor distortions. What if the distortions aren't natural? Hyun-woo asked, a terrible thought forming in his mind. What if they're artificial? What if someone is hiding something there? Or protecting something, Taemin added. The crystal calls them guardians. What if humans left ships there? A fleet in waiting? That's impossible, Hyun-woo said. But even as he spoke, he knew his conviction was fading. Nothing about this situation made sense through normal logic. Ships can't stay functional for thousands of cycles. Human ships couldn't, Taemin agreed. But we don't know what human technology was capable of. We don't even have proof they existed until now. Maybe they could do things we consider impossible. Ji-won received Hyun-woo's message just as her fleet was preparing to depart. She read through the translated data carefully, her tactical mind analyzing every detail. The coordinates he provided were close to where Jae-hyun had encountered the unknown vessel. That couldn't be coincidence. She called her senior officers together for a briefing. We have new information, she said, displaying Hyun-woo's data. These coordinates may be relevant to our mission. Da-yoon studied the numbers. That's in the navigation hazard zone. Regulations say we should avoid it. Regulations written by people who never went there, Ji-won countered. If this scholar is right, if there's something hidden in that region, we need to know what it is. Her fleet departed the next morning. 3 cruisers, 2 destroyers, and a handful of scout ships. Not much of a force if they encountered serious trouble, but Ji-won was determined to make it work. As they traveled toward the outer rim, she kept reviewing the footage from Jae-hyun's ship, studying the mysterious vessel. The journey took 4 days. On the 5th day, they reached the first missing colony. What they found made everyone on the bridge fall silent. The colony was gone. Not destroyed in the usual sense with debris and wreckage. It was simply missing. The entire settlement had been stripped away, leaving nothing but bare rock. Even the landing pads had been removed, cut away with precision that spoke of advanced technology and methodical planning. Scan for life signs, Ji-won ordered. Nothing, the scanner operator reported. No biological readings at all. It's like they were never here. They were here, Da-yoon said, pulling up the colony records. 15,000 people. Established 40 cycles ago. They sent their last routine report 8 days before our scouts went missing. Ji-won felt a chill run through her body. What could do this? What could take an entire colony and leave no trace? Commander, the scanner operator called out, his voice urgent. I'm picking up multiple contacts bearing 270. They're big. Moving toward us. Battle stations, Ji-won ordered. All ships prepare for contact. The contacts appeared on screen moments later. 5 vessels, each one matching the design from Jae-hyun's footage. Dark, angular ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with eerie coordination like parts of a single organism. Hail them, Ji-won said. All frequencies, there was no response. The alien ships simply continued their approach, their weapons ports beginning to glow with ominous red light. They're charging weapons, Da-yoon reported. Multiple targeting locks on our fleet. Return fire authorization granted, Ji-won said. Defend yourselves. The battle was brief and brutal. The alien ships moved faster than coalition vessels, their weapons cutting through shields like they weren't there. Ji-won's fleet fought back, managing to damage one of the enemy ships, but the cost was severe. Within minutes, she had lost both destroyers and 1 cruiser was crippled. Full retreat, Ji-won ordered. Get us out of here now. Her remaining ships jumped to hyperspace, barely escaping. As they fled, Ji-won watched the enemy vessels on her rear sensors. They didn't pursue. Instead, they moved toward the stripped colony, beginning to harvest what little remained. Back in coalition space, the fleet limped into the nearest station for repairs. Ji-won immediately transmitted her combat data to High Command, along with a priority alert. This time they couldn't ignore her. The response came within hours. The High Council declared a state of emergency. The threat was real, and it was worse than anyone had imagined. Analysis of G1's battle data revealed that the enemy ships were organic machine hybrids, technology beyond anything the Coalition had encountered. Their movement pattern suggested they were searching for something, following a specific route toward the core worlds. Hyunwoo learned of the battle while he was still working in the archives. He immediately tried to contact G1, and to his surprise, she responded. Scholar Hyunwoo, G1's holographic image said, "Your data was accurate. We found the enemy at those coordinates. They're real and they're more dangerous than we feared." "Then you'll go to the navigation hazard?" Hyunwoo asked. "The coordinates I sent you?" "The Council has authorized an expedition," G1 confirmed. "But they're sending scientists and archaeologists to lead it, not soldiers. They want proof before they commit military resources. Will you go?" Hyunwoo looked at Tae-min, who nodded enthusiastically despite his obvious exhaustion. "Yes," Hyunwoo said. "We'll go. If there really are guardians waiting there, we have to wake them. I'll assign military escort," Ji-won said, "and I'll send you all our combat data on these enemies. If what you find can help us fight them, we need to know." The expedition was assembled quickly. Hyunwoo, Tae-min, and a small team of researchers boarded a science vessel, accompanied by 2 military frigates for protection. As they prepared to depart, Hyunwoo felt the weight of what they were doing. They were chasing legends, gambling everything on the hope that an extinct species had left them a way to survive. "Are you ready?" Tae-min asked, settling into his seat beside Hyunwoo. "No," Hyunwoo admitted, "but I don't think that matters anymore. If these devourers keep coming, the whole coalition could fall. We have to try." The old scholar smiled, his scales catching the light. "Then let's go find some humans." As their ship entered hyperspace, heading toward the navigation hazard and the coordinates from the ancient crystal, neither of them could have imagined what they would find waiting in the dark. The navigation hazard zone looked empty at first glance. Just dead space, dark and cold, with sensor readings that made no sense. Every scanner on the science vessel reported different information, creating a confusion of data that was impossible to interpret. "This is why ships avoid this area," said Haewon, one of the researchers on Hyunwoo's team. She was a xenolinguist, someone who studied alien languages, and she had been examining the crystal's messages for days. "The sensors can't get accurate readings. It's like something is jamming them. Or hiding something," Tae-min added. He looked frailer than ever. His breathing labored in the ship's atmosphere, but his eyes were bright with determination. The expedition's lead engineer, a practical being named Sung-ho, ran scan after scan. "There's definitely something artificial here," he reported. "The sensor distortions have a pattern. They're not natural phenomena. Someone built this interference field. Can you get through it?" Hyunwoo asked. "Maybe," Sung-ho said, his fingers dancing across his console. "If I adjust our sensors to compensate for the distortion patterns, wait, I'm getting something. Multiple large objects bearing 185. They're huge." The view screen flickered, and suddenly they could see shapes emerging from the darkness. Structures. Massive structures, each one the size of a small moon, arranged in a perfect geometric pattern. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, stretching as far as their enhanced sensors could detect. "By all the ancients," Haewon whispered. "What are those?" As they moved closer, the structures resolved into clearer images. They were ships, enormous warships unlike anything in Coalition records. Their designs were sleek yet powerful, with lines that suggested both beauty and deadly purpose, and they were all dark, powered down, waiting. "This is it," Tae-min said, his voice trembling with emotion. "The sleeping guardians, humans, they're real. I was right all along." Hyunwoo felt a mixture of awe and fear. "There are thousands of ships here. How do we wake them?" "Carefully," Sung-ho said. He brought their vessel alongside one of the smaller structures, a ship that was still massive by Coalition standards. "I'm detecting a docking port. The design is old but functional. We could board it." "Do it," Hyunwoo said, making the decision. "We came here to find answers. Let's get them." The boarding process was tense. As their vessel connected to the alien ship, everyone wondered what they would find inside. A tomb, a trap, or something else entirely. The airlock opened with a hiss and lights flickered on automatically inside the human vessel. The corridor beyond was clean, maintained as if the ship had been abandoned yesterday rather than thousands of years ago. Hyunwoo led the team inside, his heart pounding. The corridors were designed for beings roughly their size, which was strange. Most ancient species had been much larger or smaller than current coalition standards. These humans, whoever they were, had been similar in build to many modern species. They found the bridge quickly, following the logical layout of the ship. And there Sung-ho discovered the control systems. They were remarkably intuitive, with interfaces that seemed designed for quick understanding. He began carefully examining the power systems. The ship is in hibernation mode, Sung-ho reported. Everything is powered down to minimal levels, but the core systems are still active. This vessel could fly right now if we knew how to wake it up. There must be a command sequence, Haewon said. She was studying the console displays, which had begun showing text in the same language as the crystal. Look, these symbols match the crystal's patterns. Maybe the crystal is the key. Hyunwoo pulled out the ancient artifact. As soon as he brought it near the command console, the crystal began to glow brighter. The ship's systems responded immediately, screens lighting up across the bridge, and then a voice spoke, clear and strong, in a language the translation system struggled with before suddenly achieving clarity. Warning, threat detection system activated. Emergency protocol standing by. Authorization required. State your designation and purpose. Everyone froze. The voice was artificial, but not like any computer they knew. It had depth, personality, almost like a living being. Hyunwoo stepped forward, remembering the phrases from the crystal. We are the inheritors. The devourers have returned. We wake you now. There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again. Authorization accepted. Initiating awakening sequence for Terran Defense Fleet, 7th Expeditionary Group. Warning. Current date indicates 11,307 years have passed since scheduled wake time. Primary mission objectives may require updating. Beginning crew revival process. Estimated time to full operational status 4 hours. Crew? Taemin said. There are people on these ships? The answer came from all around them as thousands of ships began to wake. Lights flickered on across the vast fleet, power systems coming online after millennia of sleep. And inside those ships, in chambers designed specifically for this purpose, human beings began to wake from their long sleep. Commander Young-soo opened his eyes to warning lights and alarm sounds. His body felt stiff, his mind foggy, but his training kicked in immediately. He was in a cryopod, and the emergency wake protocol had been triggered. That meant something had gone wrong. He forced himself to sit up, ignoring the protests from muscles that hadn't moved in what felt like forever. Around him, other pods were opening, his crew emerging in various states of confusion and alertness. Status report, Young-soo called out, his voice rough. Someone tell me what's happening. His executive officer, Bora, was already at a console, her hands moving across controls as she tried to process the information flooding the systems. Sir, we've been asleep for... This can't be right. The computer says it's been over 11,000 years. That's impossible, Young-soo said. But even as he spoke, he knew their systems didn't make mistakes like that. How long were we supposed to sleep? 50 years, Bora said quietly. Just 50 years. Long enough for the Vroth situation to be resolved and for us to return home. But sir, if 11,000 years have really passed, she didn't need to finish. If that much time had passed, Earth was gone. Their families, their friends, their entire civilization, all of it lost to time. Young-soo felt the weight of that realization trying to crush him, but he pushed it aside. He could grieve later. Right now his crew needed him. Why did we wake up? He asked, forcing himself to focus on the immediate situation. The threat detection system activated, Bora reported. It registered Vroth signatures in the galaxy, and someone used the emergency authorization codes to wake us. The Vroth are back? Young-soo felt a cold fury building inside him. Humanity had fought a brutal war to drive those mechanical monsters out of the galaxy. They had sacrificed so much, and now the Vroth had returned. Where's our fleet status? All ships responding, Bora said. 40,000 personnel coming out of cryo across the entire 7th Expeditionary Group. Everyone's confused, but they're following procedure. Young-soo pulled up the tactical display. He could see his fleet, all 7,000 ships, powering up around him. And there near his flagship was a small alien vessel, the ones who had woken them. Open a channel, he said. Let's find out what's happened to our galaxy. Hyunwoo nearly jumped when the communication came through. This is Captain Youngsu of the Terran Defense Fleet 7th Expeditionary Group. We have been in cryostasis for 11,307 years. Please state the nature of your emergency. They're real, Taemin breathed. They're actually real. Humans. Hyunwoo gathered himself and activated the communication system. Captain Youngsu, my name is Hyunwoo. I'm a scholar with the Galactic Coalition. We woke you because the Vroth have returned and we can't stop them. We found your warning crystal and followed the coordinates. We need your help. There was a pause. Then Youngsu's voice came back harder now. The Galactic Coalition? I'm not familiar with that organization. And you say the Vroth have returned? How many ships? What's their current position? We don't know exactly, Hyunwoo admitted. But they've already destroyed several of our colonies and defeated our military forces. Our weapons barely scratch their ships. Another pause. Permission to come aboard your vessel, Scholar Hyunwoo. I need to see what's become of the galaxy while we slept. 20 minutes later, Captain Youngsu stood on the bridge of the Coalition science vessel, looking at the data Hyunwoo had prepared. The human was tall, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to carry an ancient weariness. He studied the information carefully, his expression growing darker with each passing moment. This coalition of yours, Youngsu said finally, 847 star systems, dozens of species, and none of you have ever fought the Vroth before. No, Hyunwoo admitted. We didn't even know they existed until they attacked us. Youngsu was quiet for a long moment. Scholar Hyunwoo, I need you to understand something. The Vroth don't negotiate. They don't coexist. They consume. They're part machine, part organic, and they need to harvest biological material and technology to expand. They'll strip your worlds bare and use the resources to build more of themselves. And they won't stop until they've consumed everything in the galaxy. Can you stop them? Taemin asked, his voice weak but hopeful. Youngsu looked at the old scholar and something in his eyes softened. The human fleet came to full operational status over the following days, and the galaxy changed forever. News spread quickly through Coalition space about the discovery. Humans were real. The myths and legends had been true all along, and they had brought with them a fleet that made even the Coalition's mightiest battleships look small. Youngsu worked alongside his officers, trying to process what had happened to them. They had gone to sleep expecting to wake in 50 years. Instead, their entire civilization had died while they waited in the dark. Earth was silent. The vast human empire that had spanned hundreds of worlds was gone, reduced to dust and memory. Bora found Youngsu on the observation deck of the flagship Indomitable, staring out at the stars. She had been his friend for 20 years before they went into cryo-sleep. Now they were the last remnants of a dead world, and she could see the pain in his eyes. The crew is asking questions, Bora said quietly. They want to know what happened to Earth, to humanity. I don't have answers, Youngsu admitted. The Coalition records show that human space went silent about 10,000 years ago. No war, no invasion. Just silence. It's like our people simply vanished. Maybe they evolved beyond the need for physical bodies, Bora suggested. Or maybe they spread so far out they lost touch with the core worlds. There could be humans out there we don't know about. Youngsu wanted to believe that, but something in his heart told him the truth was simpler and sadder. Humanity had fallen somehow, and they were the only ones left. 40,000 people, the last survivors of their species. We need to focus on our mission, he said finally. We were left here to guard against the Vroth. That mission hasn't changed just because time passed. If we can't save humanity, at least we can save someone. Across the fleet, other humans were struggling with the same realization. Kyung-soo, a fighter pilot who had been 23 years old when he went into cryosleep, sat in his cockpit and tried not to think about his family. His parents, his younger sister, his girlfriend who had promised to wait for him, all of them gone, dead for thousands of years while he slept. But he had a job to do. His squadron needed him, and these Coalition people needed all the help they could get. Back in Coalition space, the High Council was in emergency session. The discovery of the human fleet had thrown everything into chaos. Some council members were afraid of these ancient warriors and their powerful ships. Others saw them as salvation. But everyone agreed that something had to be done about the Vroth. Commander Jiwon was called before the council to give her assessment. She stood before them once again, but this time she wasn't asking for permission. She was giving them the hard truth. Based on our combat data, Jiwon said, the Coalition military cannot stop the Vroth advance. Our weapons are ineffective against their shielding. Our ships are too slow. Our tactics are inadequate. If we face them alone, we will lose, and these humans?" The head counselor asked. "Can they succeed where we failed?" "I've reviewed their tactical systems," Ji-Wan said. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. More importantly, they've fought the Vroth before. They know how to kill them." But Captain Young-Soo was clear about something. "Even with their fleet, this won't be easy. We need to work together." "You're asking us to place our military forces under the command of these humans?" another counselor said. "Beings we just discovered exist?" "I'm asking us to survive," Ji-Wan replied. "Pride won't matter if we're all dead." The council debated for hours, but in the end they had no choice. The Vroth were coming, and the coalition needed help. They agreed to a joint military operation, with Ji-Wan commanding coalition forces and Young-Soo commanding the human fleet. Together they would stop the Vroth or die trying. Young-Soo received the coalition's decision aboard the Indomitable. Hyun-Woo and Taemin were there with him, having been granted permission to stay with the human fleet to continue their research and act as liaisons. "They've agreed to work with us," Hyun-Woo said. "Commander Ji-Wan will coordinate with you on all military operations." "Good," Young-Soo said. He pulled up a holographic display showing the Vroth's movements. "Because we don't have much time. Look at this pattern. The Vroth are moving systematically toward the coalition's industrial core worlds. They're not just raiding, they're preparing for a harvester operation." "What's that?" Hyun-Woo asked. "The Vroth grow by consuming," Young-Soo explained. "They take raw materials, technology, biological matter, everything they can find. They process it through their harvester ships, massive vessels that can strip an entire planet in days. Once they establish a harvester operation in coalition space, they'll be impossible to stop. They'll grow exponentially, building more ships faster than you can destroy them. Then we need to stop them before they reach the core worlds," Taemin said. "Exactly," Young-Soo agreed. "We need to hit them hard, hit them fast, and destroy their harvester ships before they can establish a foothold. That's going to require precise coordination between our forces." Over the following days, the human and coalition forces began joint training operations. It was awkward at first. The coalition species had never worked with humans before, and the humans were still processing their grief over losing their civilization. But slowly they began to understand each other. Kyung-Soo took it upon himself to train coalition fighter pilots. He was surprised to find they were quick learners, eager to adapt human tactics to their own fighting styles. One pilot in particular, a young being with compound eyes and natural reflexes, showed remarkable skill. "You're good," Kyung-Soo told him after a simulation run. "Fast reactions, good instincts. You'll do well against the Vroth." "I hope so," the pilot replied. "My colony was one of the first they hit. I want payback." Kyung-Soo understood that feeling. Even though he had no home to avenge, he felt the same burning need to make the Vroth pay for what they had done. Sung-Ho, the coalition engineer, worked alongside human technicians to integrate their technologies. He was amazed by what he learned. Human ships used energy systems that coalition science considered theoretical. Their weapons could punch through shields thought impenetrable, and their defensive measures were layers deep, redundant in ways that made them incredibly hard to kill. "How did your people develop all this?" Sung-Ho asked one of the human engineers. "Necessity," the engineer replied. "We fought the Vroth for 30 years. Every battle taught us something new. Every defeat made us adapt. By the end of the war, we had built ships specifically to kill them. That's what this fleet is. The tools designed to destroy the Vroth." On the flagship, Young-Soo and Ji-Wan met to plan their strategy. The coalition commander studied the human captain carefully, trying to understand him. Young-Soo moved and spoke like someone carrying a great weight, but his tactical mind was sharp and his determination was absolute. "Your people must be in pain," Ji-Wan said during a quiet moment, "waking up to find everything you knew is gone." "We are," Young-Soo admitted. "But pain can wait. The mission comes first. That's what we were trained for." "After this is over," Ji-Wan said, "I hope you'll let the coalition help you. You may be the last humans, but you don't have to be alone." Young-Soo was quiet for a moment. "Thank you," he said finally. "That means more than you know." As the combined fleet prepared for battle, Taemin's health continued to decline. The old scholar knew his time was running short, but he refused to leave. He had spent his entire life believing humans were real, and now he wanted to see them in action. He wanted to witness the moment when legends became heroes. Hyunwoo stayed by his mentor's side, helping him review data and compile information about human history. They learned that humanity had been a diverse species, spread across many worlds with countless cultures and languages. The 7th Expeditionary Fleet was just one small part of that vast civilization, left behind as guardians. "I wish I could have seen Earth," Taemin said one evening, his voice weak. "Seen the human homeworld in its glory. Maybe someone will find it someday," Hyunwoo said. "Maybe there are records, ruins, something left behind." "Maybe," Taemin agreed. "But even if Earth is gone, humanity isn't. As long as these people survive, as long as their memory is preserved, they'll never truly be extinct." 2 days later, scouts reported that the Vroth fleet was approaching the Talon Nebula, a strategic location that would give them a clear path to the Coalition's industrial heart. This was it. The moment everything had been building toward, Young-Soo called for a fleet-wide broadcast. His face appeared on screens across thousands of ships, human and Coalition alike. "People of the galaxy," he said, his voice strong and clear. "I'm Captain Young-Soo of the Terran Defense Fleet. My people fought the Vroth once before in a war that cost us dearly. We thought we had won. We thought the threat was over. But we prepared for their return anyway, because that's what Guardians do. We watch, we wait, we protect. Today we fulfill that mission. Today we stand with you, not as myths or legends, but as allies. Together, we're going to show the Vroth what happens when they threaten the innocent. We're going to remind them why they fled this galaxy in the first place. All ships prepare for combat. This is our time." As the broadcast ended, Hyunwoo looked at Taemin and saw tears in the old scholar's eyes. "I was right," Taemin whispered. "I was right all along." The Talon Nebula was beautiful and deadly, a swirling mass of gas and dust lit by distant stars. It was here that the fate of the galaxy would be decided. G1's Coalition fleet arrived first, taking up defensive positions along the nebula's edge. Behind them, hidden in the gas clouds, the human fleet waited like a coiled spring. "Contact," Daon reported from her station. Multiple Vroth signatures emerging from hyperspace. "Count as 300 ships and climbing." G1 watched as the enemy fleet appeared on her screens. More ships than intelligence had predicted. The Vroth had committed a massive force to this operation, which meant they considered the Coalition core worlds worth the effort. Good. That meant all their eggs were in one basket. "All ships maintain formation," G1 ordered. "Remember the plan. We hold the line until the humans are in position." The Vroth fleet advanced slowly, confidently. They had defeated every Coalition force they encountered so far. They had no reason to expect this time would be different. Their dark ships moved in perfect coordination, weapons charging as they prepared to sweep aside another obstacle. Then G1 gave the order. "Engage." The Coalition fleet opened fire, thousands of weapons lighting up the darkness. The Vroth shields absorbed most of the damage, but a few lucky shots got through. The enemy fleet responded with devastating firepower, their advanced weapons tearing through Coalition shields and armor. Ships began to die on both sides, but the Coalition held their ground. On the indomitable, Young-Soo watched the battle unfold. "The Coalition forces are performing well," Bo-Ra noted. "They're buying us time." "They're dying," Young-Soo said quietly. "Every minute we wait, more of them die. How much longer until we're in position?" 2 minutes, Bo-Ra replied. Young-Soo opened a channel to the entire human fleet. "All ships prepare to engage. Fighter squadrons, you're cleared to launch. Target the Harvester ships first. Kill them fast and get out. Capital ships, follow my lead. Let's remind these machines why they left our galaxy." Kyung-Soo sat in his fighter, feeling the familiar weight of combat pressure. Around him, his squadron was ready. Both human and Coalition pilots trained together, ready to fight together. He thought briefly of his family, lost to time, and then pushed the thought away. This was for them, for everyone who couldn't fight anymore. "All fighters, launch," came the order. Kyung-Soo's fighter shot out of the launch bay, accelerating into the chaos of battle. Immediately, his sensors lit up with targets. The Vroth had deployed their own fighter screen, mechanical things that moved too fast and hit too hard. But Kyung-Soo had fought these before, in another life, in another age. "Break by pairs," he called to his squadron. "Use the human attack pattern. Don't let them get a lock on you." The fighters scattered, moving in the unpredictable patterns that human pilots had perfected during the First War. The Vroth machines tried to track them but kept losing target locks. And while they were confused, the Coalition and human fighters struck with precision, targeting weak points that Young-Su's tactical data had identified. On the surface, the battle looked like chaos. But underneath, there was a plan. Ji-Won's forces were the anvil, absorbing the Vroth's attention and firepower. Young-Su's forces were the hammer, positioning for a devastating strike. "We're in position," Bo-Ra reported. "All human capital ships ready." Young-Su took a breath. This was it. The moment everything depended on. All ships broadcast on all frequencies. Every language. "I want the Vroth to hear this." He opened the communication channel and his voice rang out across the battlefield. "People of the galaxy, this is Captain Young-Su of the Terran Defense Fleet. We are humanity and we have not forgotten our duty. Today we stand with you. Today we fight with you. Today we show the Vroth what happens when they threaten the innocent. All ships execute attack pattern Omega." The human fleet emerged from the nebula like ghosts becoming solid. 7,000 ships, their weapons already charged, moving with precision that spoke of centuries of practice. They hit the Vroth fleet from behind and above, their attack perfectly timed to coincide with the Coalition's frontal assault. The Vroth fleet tried to adapt, to shift their formation and respond to this new threat, but the humans had fought them before. They knew every tactic, every defensive measure, every weakness in the Vroth design. Human weapons, built specifically to counter Vroth shielding, punched through defenses that had stopped Coalition fire. "Target the Harvester ships," Young-Su ordered. "Those are the priority." The Harvester ships were massive, 10 times the size of normal Vroth vessels. They were the biological processors, the factories that turned consumed matter into new Vroth units. Destroying them would cripple the enemy's ability to grow and reproduce. Kyung-Su led his fighter squadron straight toward the nearest harvester. Defensive fire filled the space around him and he lost 2 pilots in the first pass. But they got through. His weapons locked onto the harvester's core, the vulnerable biological center where it processed everything it consumed. "All fighters concentrate fire," Kyung-Su called. "Give it everything you've got." Energy weapons and missiles converged on a single point. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the harvester's shields collapsed and the next volley punched into its core. The biological matter inside began to break down, the carefully balanced organic-mechanical hybrid falling apart. "It's working," his wingman called out. "The harvester is breaking up." "One down," Kyung-Su said. 4 more to go. Across the battlefield, similar attacks were happening. Human ships working in perfect coordination with Coalition forces systematically destroyed the harvester vessels. Each time one died, the Vroth fleet seemed to shudder, their coordination faltering slightly. On the Indomitable, Young-Su watched as his tactical display showed harvester after harvester going dark. But the cost was high. Both human and Coalition ships were dying, sacrificing themselves to get close enough to the heavily defended targets. "We're taking heavy casualties," Bo-Ra reported. "Estimated 20% losses across the fleet. Keep pushing," Young-Su said. His voice was calm, but inside he felt every loss like a physical blow. These were his people, the last humans, and they were dying to save a galaxy that had forgotten they existed, but they were also winning. 4 harvesters down, then 5. The Vroth fleet, suddenly vulnerable, began to retreat. Without their harvester ships, they couldn't sustain operations in this region. They would have to fall back and rebuild. "They're running," Da-Un said from her station on Ji-Won's ship. "Should we pursue?" "No," Ji-Won said, though every instinct screamed at her to chase down the fleeing enemy. "We've achieved our objective. The harvesters are destroyed. Let them go," Young-Su agreed. "All ships hold position. Do not pursue. Begin search and rescue operations for disabled vessels." As the Vroth fleet disappeared into hyperspace, the combined Coalition and human forces regrouped. The battlefield was filled with wreckage from both sides, but they had won. The Vroth advance had been stopped. In the days following the battle, the real work began. Damaged ships needed repairs. Wounded needed treatment. Dead needed to be honored. Kyung-Su attended the memorial service for the pilots he had lost, both human and Coalition. He stood beside pilots from a dozen different species, all of them united in their grief. "They were brave," one of the Coalition pilots said to him. "Your people and mine. We fought well together." "We did," Kyung-Su agreed, "and we'll need to keep fighting. The Vroth will come back. Then we'll be ready," the pilot said. Together. Aboard the Indomitable, Hyun-woo found Young-soo alone in the observation deck again, looking out at the stars. The human captain looked tired, older somehow than he had before the battle. "It's over," Hyun-woo said quietly. "You did it. You stopped them." "For now," Young-soo replied. "The Vroth will rebuild. They'll come back eventually. That's what they do. They never stop." "Then we'll stop them again," Hyun-woo said. "Together." The Coalition Council has voted. They're offering full membership to humanity. All of your people. You won't be alone anymore. Young-soo was quiet for a long moment. 40,000 people, he said finally. That's all that's left of humanity. One fleet. One group of soldiers who went to sleep thinking they'd wake up to a world that still existed. And now we're all that remains. You're wrong, Hyun-woo said. You're not all that remains. You're the beginning. A new chapter for humanity. You saved us. Now let us help you build something new. Young-soo turned to look at the young scholar. What did you have in mind? I've been talking with the council, Hyun-woo explained. They want to create a joint defense initiative. Human and coalition forces working together, combining our technologies and tactics. With humans training our forces, we could defend the entire galaxy. And my people? Young-soo asked. What happens to them? They become part of the galaxy, Hyun-woo said. They find new homes, new families. Some will stay in the military. Others will become teachers, engineers, explorers. Whatever they want to be. The galaxy is theirs now, just as much as it's ours. Young-soo considered this. His people needed purpose, needed something to live for beyond the mission that had defined them for so long. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was how humanity survived, not as conquerors or rulers, but as guardians and teachers.